Hello, friends, and welcome to Talking with Famous People's MultiTopic Elation Party. You personally have been invited to this party. It's a black tie affair with no dress code. You might think that sounds like a contradiction. No, it's not. It's the more magical thing. It's a paradox. So what I'm promising today to everybody who's here is nonstop elation. Cloud's experiencing it right now. He is absolutely elated to be here. You feel that rush of adrenaline through your veins, Cloud? Elation party!
Elation! Look how much! Oh my gosh! Wow! Even the door was banging.
Yeah, we're going to tear the roof off this sucker. Okay? Because everybody knows that roofs only serve to contain the elation unnecessarily. Hi, Ken Christian Summer. Good. Did you come for the elation? Come for the elation, stay for the snacks.
Hey, Ken Krishna Summer Pagoo.
Elation is a little bit addictive, so I should warn everybody who comes here today. Once you experience this level of elation, there's a decent chance you're going to become an elation addict.
Wow.
I was briefly an elation addict after I started quadruppling. For the first time I quadrupled, I had a bit of a problem with elation. I'd be elated all the time, and it's hard to get shit done when you're elated. That's why most people can't handle too many nonstop elation parties before they have to go take a nap.
It's true.
You are dressed and ready to elation.
Yay!
Thank God. See, Winston's mom has come here prepared for the elation. It's like you need to mentally prepare. You have to have a mental swimsuit on to come to this party because this party has so much elation in it that if you're not wearing a swimsuit, you're going to get splashed with elation. And you're going to wish you had worn a swimsuit.
Does that equal FI?
Well, it's a specific kind of FI.
The splashy kind.
No, the elated kind.
Oh!
Yeah.
Which would equal a splash?
No, I'm saying since this party is an elation party, be prepared to get elated. And that's what I mean. Bring your metaphysical elation swim trunks. So in that metaphor, yes, elation is a swimming pool full of elated water. And you are an elated swimmer swimming in the elation.
Wow, that's pretty dangerous.
The supreme cosmic... Cloud's realized something, everybody. He's realized something. He's had an intuitive realization. And it specifically is that supreme cosmic types are ENFP, INTJ, ENFJ, and INTP. Supreme cosmic type. Right on. What do you get for being supreme cosmic type? Do you get to wear a certain, insignia on your collar? Or... is there a special handshake or something?
I'm such a dumbass. I forgot a whole backside.
You forgot a whole backside.
Yeah, I'm doing my homework.
Okay, so Ken Krishna Summer Pagoo makes the bold claim that the Joker is the best villain in history.
Which one?
From the Batman trilogy, the Joker. So
I agree.
You agree with Ken Krishna
Yeah, I
Summer
definitely do.
He's
the one who changed everyone's mind about the Joker. That's just being the one from the first Batman with Batman Forever or whatever. The first one with the Joker was Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson did a great job, but it took it from the comic book to what it could possibly be in real life.
Greatest supervillain. I mean, the thing is, it is definitely the case that probably the Joker is the one that comes to mind most for me as a character with a lot of villainous history, I suppose. But I mean, I'm inclined to find much more interesting Catwoman. than the Joker.
Having a good Catwoman is key.
A good cat, to me, okay, put it this way. If there's a storyline, a Batman story that involves Batman versus one of the supervillains, I'm probably going to like the movie that includes Catwoman as a supervillain more than the one that has Joker. Because to me, Joker is I don't like the garishness of the Joker. The Joker I find garish.
What does garish mean?
Lacking nuance or subtlety. It's like if you want to show that you're like, it's like Armenians when Armenians decorate. That's garish. You know, everything's with gold and alabaster and like Greek columns and stuff. That's being garish. Well, he's got his own variety of garish.
But I think that he does, and I think that the Joker in The Dark Knight is less garish than most of the Jokers. Definitely.
I mean, I also think maybe I'd rather see them do more with like the Riddler or do more with some of the other ones.
I
you know?
agree. The third Batman, like Christopher Nolan Batman, has the Catwoman in it, and what's her name? Anne Hathaway plays her. And the Bane's in it, and unfortunately, like I just didn't find Bane that scary.
You don't like Bane? Bane blows you up.
I like Bane. No, I actually did like Bane. I thought that I like the character of Bane.
Jack's a total ENTP, Mark. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
I just think that the Dark Knight is the best out of the trilogy.
So I don't even remember the Batman movies. You know, it's like, who did Superman fight against? What are Superman's arch enemies? Like, who?
Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Lex Luthor, I guess, is Superman's arch enemy. Main Superman arch enemy is Lex Luthor. Jack's totally an EHV. You think Jack's an ISTJ? That's Mark. Who would type Jack from Socionic Society as an ISTJ? I don't mean to be like, what are you talking about? But what in the world are you talking about? Who would type Jack from World Socionic Society as an ISTJ? And again, I'm sorry to be like, but seriously though.
No, he's not ISTJ.
I don't know what to think about that. Those types for those four, it kind of makes intuitive sense, but I should probably get careful not to get egotistical and thinking the Holy Spirit is in my type.
It's not.
Look, the thing is, we all link to divinity as a configural thing package, right? So presumably, as an EHP, my most sort of godly expression of self is I'm not wasting any more time with you, Mike Jones. Goodbye. So it's certainly the case that for every type, they have their own moral path to walk, right? They have to decide whether they want to be a moral agent, whether they want to not think about morality at all, sort of be amoral, whether they want to take a position on it or not, whether they go with their gut, their feelings. Regardless, everybody's going to have a relationship with their own moral agency of some sort, okay? So, and the point about that is, what's going to be a way that you engage in your moral agency? That's the question. And that's the thing that's going to be determined by cognitive function stack. So I don't doubt that, most of us here think we probably are mostly good people and are mostly right about things. I may say it more often than most people, but Cloud and I both say it a lot. Cloud thinks he's very right, and I think I'm right, and so forth, right? But regardless, by and large, we can all disagree here about whatever, and it's not a moral issue. Sometimes, I think discursive approaches are moral issues. Like, I guess I would say that if there are, I can conceive of or present a possible example of create a scenario in which somebody would be discursively evil without doing any sort of call to action or lying. But it's a, you know, it would take some quite a bit of narrative work for me to be convinced that that person's positions and stuff make them immoral or engaged in immoral behavior. I may even sometimes make that claim, but you know, I don't really mean. In general, you have to do something to be immoral. To be morally violatory in some fashion, you have to take some sort of action. Talking about stuff, by and large, doesn't provide. I mean, you can take a very ontologically harmful approach in your speech when you're directing it at other people, but generally speaking, the decision to hold a position, to express a position, or express some concepts or stuff doesn't have any moral, implicit moral weight to it because it's conditional. It's saying, well, provided the following assumptions are the case, then this would seem to be the case to me. So, you know, how people imagine or how people determine their own moral course and determine what's moral and what's not moral is going to be influenced a lot by their cognitive function stack. Hi, Pedro Castro. How are you today? And ENFP Holy Spirit can work well with INTP, which is focused on cosmic order. Oh. So why do you call them Holy Spirit and cosmic order? Just to make them less meaningful or what? There's no doubt that people engage with divinity, right? So it's one way or the other, people engage with the ineffable aspects of life that are irreducibly so, that have some sort of synergism to them that can't be reductively explained. There are those in the world who would attempt to claim that I mean, my discussion with you is civilized, Pedro Castro, for sure. My discussion with Mike Jones is, no, we don't agree to disagree. That is not the case, Pedro Castro. I disagree with you because you're wrong. You can either claim that you disagree with me because I'm wrong, or that you can see that you've not made your case, but choose to retain your existing poor arguments. But I will not agree to disagree. I will disagree to disagree. However, that's what it means to be civilized. It means to acknowledge that sometimes people aren't in agreement, and that if they aren't in agreement about a public policy issue, it's because more narrative work needs to be done. I don't think you have any obligation to be convinced by me ever at any point. But I do believe that if both of us are honest with ourselves and we do all the argumentation, we will be in agreement that reasonable people never disagree about things, because where they do, one of them is right and one of them is wrong. And reasonableness means accepting when you're wrong and changing your position accordingly. So I am the world's first transracial YouTuber, not interracial, fluidly transracial YouTuber.
Yeah, you are.
And thank you, Lyra A, for pointing that out.
Yes,
I should be well known throughout the world to be a Wikipedia article on me as the world's first transracial YouTuber. But for some reason, there's not. Why? Because I don't know. Because I have to do. I'm like magically being prevented from stumbling into success, so that I'm forced to do it right or something like that. It's annoying. It's annoying, but it's just because I've Mike Jones, this is my YouTube channel. You don't have a right to speak here. I afford you the privilege, and I afford you much more of that privilege than most people would afford a troll like you. But you don't seem to understand what free speech means. I do encourage free expression for people who engage in the marketplace of ideas. For people who are just here to troll and provoke, I'm not going to bother them. You've not responded to what I said. You've not engaged in conversation with me. You've just trolled. So that's what you get. Remember, if you want to talk freely about your opinion, you can do that on your YouTube channel. Cloud says, you prefer Jung because it doesn't reject the divine like Freud and others. Well, I mean, I prefer Jung to Freud for sure, but the problem is, you're right, Cloud. It's important to not reject the divine, in my opinion. But once we're in agreement about that, now I can't really defend that claim. But since you and I are in agreement about that claim, that it's important to not reject the divine, I will defend the claim that it's important to engage the divine correctly. And you, in that sense, Jung did the best he could, but it's like you shouldn't rely on. You shouldn't use God as an excuse to not do your work. Okay, that's what it boils down to. You shouldn't use God as an excuse to not do your work. God doesn't want you to make bad arguments on his behalf. That's what I said. Okay, see, Pedro Castro, that's why I put that qualifier in there. I cannot defend the initial claim that it's important to not ignore the divine for exactly that reason, because I can't define the divine. So I'm not interested in defending that claim. What I'm saying to Cloud is that once we're in agreement that it's important to not exclude the divine, so we're already in agreement about that, then I would say it's very important to engage the divine correctly. You don't want to do it where you're trying to say, I get to be weak because this is about God, and therefore I'm just going to use God as an excuse to be weak in my argumentation or weak in my thinking. That's not going to fly. Sorry. That angers God, if anything. God doesn't want you to say, to sort of delegate things to him that just because you don't want to do the work of understanding them properly. You know what I'm saying? Notifications still aren't working. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about YouTube. It's not anything I can do about it. It's funny, stupid Eric. Oh, you know what I just did, Rachel? I moved that out of there because I thought it was blocking your face. It's actually I need to turn the camera.
Hi, everyone.
What I'm saying, Cloud, is that, well, you do, for example, you when it's time to do the real work that would most actually manifest the divine, you use its divinity as an excuse to not do that work. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, God wants you to do your best to explain everything without him.
No, it's in black. It's good that you let us know.
Yes, Freud was mistaken about that. We are not just biological robots.
Hey, what's this one?
For example, using language in a way that empowers what's worthwhile and useful and valuable about the divine without using it to excuse dissembling or to understand where the lines are. It's true about the divinity and stuff, but when we allow that to make us less precise in our language, then we are betraying God, not on his side. See what I'm saying?
It's good to see you here, Winston's mom. I've missed you the past few live streams. that I've been there for.
Boy, these flies.
I don't know. Oh,
There's
sorry, I forgot to close the door.
No, please. I want the door open. I want the flies to not come in here because they understand that I will kill them if they do, not because they can't.
Hell yeah, you got it.
Fuckers. I hate the flies. They're what I like to call the bold boys.
They are very bold.
Okay, so Pedro Castro, I don't want to have any arguments with anybody about what God is or what they should believe or anything like that. So I don't have a position on what the correct position on God is. A lot of people who believe in God do have a position on that. I don't have a position on that. But I do have a position on the following, that once you're past the God question, yes or no, if you're on the yes side, that there's lots of stuff you can't do. So in other words, if you're on the yes side of God, then you oughtn't be using him as an excuse to think poorly. You know, you oughtn't be using the fact that people communicated through vibration and telepathy as and then warrant it with God. That's
no.
I mean, look, what it's basically like saying is first you're gonna agree to this. Okay, I'm gonna enter this frame of reference with God involved in it, and then you're gonna completely betray that frame of reference by saying, okay, now I get to do whatever I want and don't have to be constrained by any sort of reason or logic or fairness. That's not good. That's not what God wants.
And also, like,
people, it's like if somebody's going to argue on behalf of God, don't embarrass him with your weakness. You know, this is the problem I have with a lot of Christians or religious people, is they're arguing. Like, God's there to empower an individual to manifest beyond the limits of reductionism. Okay, beyond the limits of reductionism. No, but see, this is the thing, Cloud. God doesn't want you to be less able to understand by just mushing things out to, well, your perspective and mine. If that were the case, we'd never get to communicate about anything. We'd never communicate meaningfully about anything. You say it's $1. I said it was 50 cents. So I give you 50 cents. Words don't mean anything. But I'm selling it to you for $1. I know, and that's why I gave 50 cents. There you go. Goodbye. That's life in Cloud's world.
I think most people believe that, problems happen when you think your partner knows telepathy, and you just start assuming things. Gets you in trouble.
Chai T says a lot of people use the teachings to define their morals, so it's valid. The thing is, the reason divinity is necessary is because there are two halves to the moral world. There's the negative half of the moral world, for which divinity is not necessary and is logically deducible. We can logically defend a negative rights framework, which says the reason you can't violate my rights is because I can't violate yours. And as long as we both agree to as long as I respect your rights, I have not forfeit mine, and therefore you cannot transgress against me without incurring the status morally impermissible.
Is religion a personal thing?
I mean, my point is this: there's always going to be a magical answer to positive moral indications, what one ought to do. People will provide logical explanations for that. But the problem is what one ought to do is naturally framed through FITE. What one ought to do is what one wants to do and what one must do to get that thing, right? Except that does not have any moral dimension to it. So the problem is, in order to be metaphysical beings who attain outcomes in a physical world, it requires us to have some sort of moral framework, whether it's explicit or not. Whether you have words to explain it, or whether you have words to explain why the thing is not what it is, or something like that. Regardless, everybody's got a moral framework. What I mean by that is because we remember things through time, I can't have something stolen from me one day and feel really upset about it, and then the next day, without any sort of sense of cognitive dissonance, steal something from somebody else. Now, if I have no recollection of stealing something, if somebody stealing it from me and make me feel bad, then it's quite conceivable that I might think, oh, I'm just going to go, like animals. Trouble doesn't come over here and feel bad when he steals Pee-Pee's food. He just feels entitled to it. The reason is because he can't conceive of himself as owning something. Preceding all negative rights is ownership. And that's why animals don't have rights. It's because rights are a function of ownership. They're not a function of anything else, okay? People try to say rights are, oh no, it's because they're human beings. That's why we have rights. No, it's not. It's because we have ownership. That's why there are rights. And rights are inferred by ownership. I mean, you can deduce them from ownership. On the other hand, what you should do, well, that's a different question, because it's like the other side of the mirror. So whereas the FITE aspect of things requires NI, which is to say divinity, to provide its directionality because it's not reducible, the negative moral aspect of time, the kind that is reducible via TI and FE, requires FI to direct it and NI. So it's like the FITE thing requires NI and TI to constrain it. The TIFE thing requires NIFI to constrain it. By which I mean simply that if I want to know what I should do, then I can't look to logically concluded things. I can't say it is logically necessary so that I should do this. Even if it's as simple a thing as saving a drowning child. I am not engaged in a morally impermissible behavior logically. If I choose to not save a drowning child, I have no obligation to do so. However, most people would agree it's something you should do. However, we can't prove that you should do it. It's not a universal should, okay? So how do you know that you should save the drowning child? Well, you know via NI and FI that it's just sort of inherently so that saving somebody in distress is good. That's the NI thing. And that maybe you feel that you can sort of identify with the kid's fear. You see the mother upset, and it makes you realize, oh, this is very important to them. A lot of attachment involved here. I can help because there's going to be a lot of harm there, and I can prevent it with a little bit of effort on my part. So that's how we have to understand morality. It's that there are two sides to the equation, and to be a moral person means to respect both the negative side of the equation and the positive side of the equation. So I think it's fair to say that if we were to take Mike Jones as a serious person rather than a troll, then what he's trying to say is we have the positive moral obligation to attain the outcomes I prefer, regardless of the methodologies or the negative moral obligations. He's the exact opposite of what I would say, which is we foremost must adhere to or uphold the negative obligations, and we ought pursue positive obligations consistent with those negative obligations, but we can't determine anything the single best course because there are infinite possible courses, for one thing.
We all engage in telepathy every day in which we emotionally connect with others across distance. Says Force Mumbler 1. I don't think people should lean on telepathy. Like, when there is definitely a thing.
That's not telepathy.
Telepathy, like understand, like you're thinking the same thing as the other person at the same time. Happens. It could be like.
That's just called FE.
Like, yeah, I don't know. You're like, okay, so like someone calls you and it's the person you were thinking of. Like that happens, but you can't like lean on it as like a way of just communicating, because even telepathy, you use words.
All right. Well, I think what horsemumbler means, and maybe he can fill us in more what he means, but I would suggest that he's trying to say something along the lines of when two people's moods influence each other, that's a form of telepathy. Like in other words, when I'm listening to this book, right, and the author is making me cry. I cried so much at the end of that book last night. I was listening to, and it wasn't sad stuff. It was all like the beautiful resonance of life is so overwhelming. It was like that kind of crying, you know. But so you could say that that's a form of magic for sure, where the author has successfully set a trap here that he knows is going to provoke response emotion A or something.
Yeah.
And so I guess you could say if somebody does that in person with you, then horsemumbler might call that a form of telepathy. Is that what am I narrowing in on what you mean by that, horsemumbler?
I just don't think that people should use it as an excuse to not talk to their partner. Like, I believe that there are certain things that should absolutely be communicated and communicated honestly. And if there are misunderstandings, or if you don't understand where your partner is coming from, either friendship, relative, love partner, then you should ask questions. Questions will get you answers. Sometimes you don't want those answers, and sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better knowing than just assuming like that your partner is gonna like do everything that's like ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion.
What is?
Using only.
Don't abuse it and use it as an excuse to stop communicating.
Yeah, there are people who are like that.
Oh, I was just basically saying that when people use FE successfully, or even if they're not using FE successfully, but anytime people are trying to communicate to each other and they're using not words to communicate.
You have to.
So, anytime that happens, and everybody does to some extent, but it's true that we spend a lot of, we're pretty good, depending on where FE is, at reading another person's mood and how important something is to them. And so, and we have these FE approaches to try to convey that, and they get abused all the time. So it's like, if I'm young and I'm getting into an argument with my significant other, I'm likely to come in with a little play, right? Like, okay, boy, this is really serious. I'm trying to convey to my partner that you really fucked up. But what I'm not saying you really fucked up. That would be like, I'm mad. So I'm one level metaing it and going, I'm going to pretend like I'm past mad now. I'm not thinking this through in my head as a plan or anything, but this is how FE works, right? So what I'm presenting as an emotion is I'm beyond mad now. I'm actually worried about this, because if you're like this, it's some sort of conditional bullshit. Well, if you're like this, then I can conclude this horrible thing. So you must be this horrible thing. All that stuff there. If you were to actually just say words, like exchange communications in text, there's still that stuff. There's still all kinds of little subtextual shit going on, right? There's lots and lots of subtext in human communication. People's degree of telepathy, so to speak, if you're going to think of telepathy as being within the native human capacity to understand, influence, and impact each other on non-binary levels, well then,
excuse me.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was going with that.
Thanks, Tyrant66. It's very warm here today. This is a loose dress.
I mean, the problem with Darwin is as simple as this: he's just trying to make his F. He's not trying to be serious. Lamarck is trying to be serious. If you look at Lamarck's evolutionary paper and work, you'd like him. Look up Lamarck, because what he does is he explains what his shit does not explain, and he explains, here's what's obviously going on. There's some force of increased complexity this way, and there's some force of increased complexity this way. In other words, so he got adaptation versus complexity, right? Darwin didn't get that. He didn't make the distinction. He didn't frame it out right. He just tried to win his case. He didn't try to be serious. If something didn't work with his case, he tried to avoid talking about it. That's what I call, that's shame on UTI. That's what that is. Who is they? Will you stop talking about they, Cloud? There is no they trying to do meh to us. Okay. That's if I can ever get one thing through to everybody, this is probably the central, most important message to get across. Anytime we talk about they trying to do stuff to us, we have moved away from purposeful communication and solution-based communication towards and moved up back towards the earlier stage. The earlier stage is NI. Earlier stage is NI. If we're focused too much on NI about the political world, then we're focused too much about trying to encapsulate into a singular neat package something that doesn't work like that.
CJ O'Connell, it's funny that you say us versus them narratives are not only tiresome but dangerous, because there's a LCD Sound Systems song called Us versus Them over and over again, and it's a really good political us versus them.
So yeah,
and over again.
Well, here's the thing, Cloud. One thing we can be absolutely sure of is that you will never be helpful in solving our world's problems, because no matter what is going on, you're not going to be talking about something that can be helpful at all. If you're talking about shadowy days, then you're definitely not going to be focused on substantive policy issues.
I use they when I reference an article or something.
Yeah, sure. But look, everybody does it to a certain extent. Well, they say that, salt's bad for you or something. It's understandable. Okay. But when we interpret current events, by and large, through they're trying to get us to meow frame, there is no central they who's causing the media to prioritize this narrative frame over these others. It's not. There's no central directionality here. It's the momentums of narrative through time. And as a debate coach, I get to watch those over the course of the years. I get to see how debate arguments begin in college, go immediately to high school, because high school is filled with college coaches, and then how it years later trickles down into the general population. And so, the most important thing to remember is, Cloud, 20 years ago, people were saying they want meow, and they're making us meow, and they're trying to get meow. And of course, none of those things have come true. Every time there's a crisis, they're trying to do this or whatever. But then there's an opposite crisis the next month. Well, what are they trying to do now then? They aren't very good at accomplishing what they're trying to do, since if you're good at identifying what they're trying to do and it never happens, then they must be terrible at doing what they're trying to do.
I agree with you, CJ O'Connell. It's classic.
I think there are myriad pyramids of power throughout every culture and every society, every city, every town, every nation. and internationally. I think every individual is a part of myriad pyramids of power because that's how the world works. It is not contained within a single frame. It's myriad frames comprised of myriad subframes, individuals with multiple conflicting interests, and a lot of unpredictability built into the system. That's how reality works. Oh, I see. But really underneath, it's much more simple and unnuanced and dumb. No. Now, the bottom line is there are different kinds of systems. You have a closed system. Let's talk about a closed system. Grammar is a pretty closed system.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say to you, no, Cloud, grammar is not within my bubble or your bubble, right? English grammar is something external to both of us, right? It's not within my bubble or your bubble. So we can talk about that system and how it works as a system and how different systems work according to different dynamics. So with grammar, I can tell you with definitive certainty whether a given clause is a noun clause or an adverb clause or an adjective clause, and I can teach you exactly how you can as well. It's objectively so, and we can all reach agreement because the means to determine whether it is objectively so is built into the system. So that's what's called a closed system, Cloud. So here's just sort of bullet point it so you can take this information away and use it successfully in the future. A closed system is number one that has rules that are never changed by behavior within the system. In other words, the rules can't be made an object in the system. In debate, that's not the case. In debate, I get to define the rules for debate in the debate round as part of the debate round. That's not how it is with grammar. You can to a certain extent. You can put quotation marks around something and turn it into a noun. The verb to run. So the thing is, that's a closed system. Now, we could also look at weather. Weather is a chaotic system. We can only predict it no matter how many data points we have up to a certain degree of distance from the present. And that's a firm systemic limit. It doesn't matter how much better our technology gets. If we improve our data gathering 10 times, it'll get one better. Then 100 times it'll get one better. So it's diminishing returns, okay, in terms of predictability. Now, these are mathematically accurate descriptions, Cloud. This is not my perception. This is like I have 4 apples that each cost $1, so it's $4. It's just very concrete. Nothing abstract here, no perceptual stuff.
I want to remind everyone that God and dog go together because dog is spelled God backwards.
Which means we are God's dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And like people are as to their dogs, God loves us, but he still gets frustrated because we tear up the newspaper and stuff and poop in the house. So, well, you shouldn't walk me in. The lady Goldian Finch Chloe Bia Goldia, or you ready for that gold? What the hell? Who is that person? What about tax? What about tax? Taxes are, taxes are one of those things that you have to. There are a number of things in life where you have to actually ultimately end up balancing principled and utilitarian considerations. It's something I don't like in jurisprudence. I don't like it when the Supreme Court appeals to competing interests to explain their ruling. I'll have to rewatch it and see what my low-key profound metaphor was, because of course I immediately forget what I said 5 seconds ago. Oh, the dog thing, right?
Yeah, let God, let the dogs train us, And God, we train, the dogs, and let God train you.
Okay, so Aaron, taxation is one of those areas where it's on the border between principled and utilitarian. The reason it's on the border is it is true that communities have shared. Do anti-mask folk have a specific type? Smart and reasonable, I guess, or
I agree.
not a sheep.
Yeah,
American, real Americans, patriots.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call them.
Because that idea is not American.
So taxation's not theft, provided a community is small enough that there's genuine like decision making behind it. So if me and 10 other families were to move off into a someplace up in Canada and but it wasn't part of Canada, it was like unincorporated land, and we just made it our own country now. At first we wouldn't have any taxes probably because we just have, let's just say it started off with basically it's there's a lake there, there's a little flat area, we put a road down there, and we just helicopter in and drop us all there, and there's our town now. It's hard to come in and grow from the town, but there it is. Now,
Does this town have flies?
maybe. Now, let's say we want to put in an airport. We all agree, look, I'm tired of only being able to get here by helicopter. We need to be able to get here by plane. We're all in agreement. And we're all like, okay, well, let's all chip in whatever to make this airport. Well, then, fine. You do that. Pretty soon, your little town, your little thing starts growing. Well, it's taken by force without consent. It's that. So, but listen, Aaron, listen to what I'm saying. Remember how we're functioning in the world. So when everybody agreed to chip in to buy this airport, then that's not taxation. They all got together and agreed to just chip in that much money. Pretty soon that town starts growing though. And they're having some serious problems, which is they've got people who have moved in, they built houses on new plots, but the road doesn't even go to their house yet. And so they have to build their own private road, own private drive to the road. The problem is you've got like a bunch of private drives going to one main road and no way to get between those houses, and traffic is just an absolute fucking nightmare. So, we need to agree to organize this transportation space in ways that serve everybody, and we're going to have to pay for it somehow. And since the reason we have to build these new roads is because all of you new people have moved here, then you're going to need to contribute some money. They say, well, I don't need a new road. I don't want to. I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm here by the lake. I can take my long drive up to that road, and that's just it. I don't want to change it. Well, the fact is, as a community grows, its needs change, and there are group needs that presumably everybody needs to chip in on. So taxes are unavoidable. Okay, it is inevitable that you're going to have some kinds of taxes. Taxes are best levied as sales taxes and nothing else. There should be just sales taxes.
That makes sense.
Sales taxes are the most fair because the amount you pay is however much you spend. So if you make a lot of money and you just spend it on consumer goods and stuff, well, then you'll pay a lot in taxes. You make a lot of money and you invest it, then you won't pay taxes on the capital gains. However, remember, money eventually always gets spent on something. If I'm investing in building my wealth up, it's still going to get spent eventually. So if you do sales taxes, then you have the richer somebody is, the more they buy, the more they pay.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay a lot of taxes and you exempt food from sales taxes and you're just buying food, then you're not going to really pay any taxes. That helps the poor. If the other important thing to note is it doesn't create this money sapping extra layer of bullshit. So in America, we have taxes, we have taxpayers, and we have an industry devoted towards helping taxpayers pay less taxes. Why? Because of the incredibly regressive program of progressive taxation. Progressive taxation is an absolute fucking nightmare. Because what does progressive taxation tell you? It tells you that people who make more money pay a higher percentage of their total money than people who make less money. But the thing is, you have to look at it in two vectors. So there's total amount of money that a person pays in taxes. Then there's the total percentage of their money that they pay in taxes. It makes sense, of course, that people who make more money should pay more taxes, but not that they should pay a higher percentage of taxes, because they will pay more taxes because they're doing more economic exchange. As long as our taxation programs are built into the economic exchange system rather than directly at individuals. The worst thing that ever happened in the United States is the income tax amendment. There should be no income tax. It's insane. And look what happens when you have it. You have this absolute fucking clusterfuck of a nightmare of a system set up where now they are taking 33% of everybody's paycheck for Social Security. And you come up with situations like in Seattle, where they raised the minimum wage to a living wage. Another bad idea, but why did it absolutely not help at all? Because all the people who were making less than $20 an hour prior to that were receiving federal housing benefits. And so when they got raised to $20 an hour, they had to tell their work, I need fewer hours or else I'm going to lose my housing benefits. That's called incentivizing poverty.
Yeah, so awesome. You say that about being programmed too, because for me, this directly relates to one of my favorite movies, A Clockwork Orange. I get what you're saying there, CJ O'Connell. It's a good movie. Definitely sticks with you.
Yeah, the other thing to remember about taxation and such is that we unfortunately don't really get to determine our political advocacies in a vacuum. It would be great if we could go back to the time before the income tax amendment and refuse to vote for it or whatever, but we can't. It's there. It would be great if asked whether we should start Social Security, I would say no. Getting rid of it is an entirely different policy question than whether or not we should have it. So it's very easy to stand back from a principles position and say, this is how it should be, this is how it should be, this is how it should be. But it's much more difficult from the perspective of a president or somebody working in government who has to recognize the fact that we have substantial amounts of growth on top of poor foundations. So how are you going to manage the foundational aspect of things? How to manage to retrofit the foundation so that it's sound without killing everything that's growing on top of it is a fundamental challenge of a thinking man president.
Oh my gosh, that's he. Why did you remind me?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you want what they're trying to do is, Horse Mumbler has a legitimate one. What were they trying to do with the income tax amendment? Were they trying to make us all slaves? No. They were trying to make sure that massive warfare was economically sustainable over the long term.
I literally said it's a movie that sticks with you because I didn't want to talk more about it. It's okay, Shadi. That it's a good movie. I can't take away its significance. It's a significant movie. Definitely sticks with you.
All right. Well, look, Horse Mumbler, you're going to be my constitutional hawk on my cabinet. Okay. Someone's got to be the constitutional hawk. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go as hard as might be ideal, but I need to have somebody there to push me to go as hard as to help me remember what the ideal is.
Well, you know, my spiderweb mind goes to certain parts of that movie too. So I get you.
Who's trying
It's
to
all
cure
good.
evil? Who's Alex? Alex Trebek is trying to cure evil?
What's he up to
I think
lately?
he's dying of cancer. He's either
Oh.
dead or is dying of cancer. Let's see. Let's check on Alex Trebek. I know he had cancer. I think he announced his retirement from the show due to cancer. Alex Trebek.
I still like the line "Suck at Trebek."
Suck it, Trebek.
Yeah, it's SNL skit where
He's almost unrecognizable amid his pancreatic cancer battle. That sounds depressing. He's 79?
wow.
Wow, I had no idea he was 79. I wouldn't call him almost
No,
unrecognizable.
me neither.
That doesn't look that. He doesn't look that
Actually,
bad. He looks
that's pretty
fine.
good.
That's ridiculous. Daily Mail.
Mean.
He doesn't look. He looks. He doesn't
He
look
looks
frail.
Like he's good, actually.
I mean, his facial
That's why he's going
expression.
through treatment.
I will agree
He lost
that,
his hair because he's going through chemo.
and I will agree, this facial expression is definitely.
Yeah,
But he does not
but
look
he's
frail.
taking out the trash.
Right. He's a 79-year-old man taking out the trash.
God damn.
Why would you say he looks frail in these pictures? He does not look frail at all.
No,
He just looks like he's annoyed by taking out the trash. Sean Connery advocates
Yes,
slapping women?
Yes. Wait, what?
Sean Connery advocates slapping women?
Yeah, he probably does.
Wow. Who would advocate that? Like,
Right?
what's his justification for this? Like, it's a good idea to
I
hit
think it's
women.
his ego. I really think it's his ego. That's why they make fun of him on SNL.
Does he have a big ego?
Yeah, Sean Connery. He's always going to be like 007.
Then Sean Connery did. Catching the role of, I don't mean about the craft, but about its ego. We just clicked. Oh, that's not. Sean Connery's ego on display. Wow. This is a response to Steve Jobs in 1996 from Sean Connery. This is a letter response he wrote to Steve Jobs. I will say this one more time. You do understand English, don't you? I do not sell my soul for Apple or any other company. I have no interest in changing the world, as you suggest. You have nothing that I need or want. You are a computer salesman. I am fucking James Bond. I can think of no quicker way to destroy my career than to appear in one of your crass adverts. Please do not contact me again. What a douche.
Right? That's why they make fun of him on
incredible
SNL.
douchebag.
And then he says "suck at Trebek." He's always like kind of punch bagging, like. And Will Ferrell plays Trebek, and he's like, "Okay, now let's go to the next question here." It's really good.
Oh, what a douche. I'm James Bond.
Right?
What? You're like one of them.
Trebek means fuck real.
He's not even James Bond. He's one of multiple James Bonds. I didn't even think of him primarily as James Bond. I think of him as.
I like Roger, whatever his name. I didn't even see him in any of them. Roger
Oh, yeah.
Moore.
Roger
I've
Moore.
never even seen it at 007 with Roger Moore, and I say he's better than Sean Connery. Fuck that shit.
What a douche.
00. I'm James Bond.
I'm important. Hey, you guys, remember, I'm super important. Everybody remember that.
Yeah.
Okay?
I created.
I've done this and this and this. I'm very, very
James
important.
Bond. Connery did in a hostile interview, and it was suave as hell, no ego in evidence. He delivered that opinion with real precision and class, but it still comes from a place of ego.
I mean, basically, doing a brilliant job of FBing that isn't a good thing.
Yeah. No.
I mean, you can tell not where. This guy is is definitely not very FI. It's like he's what?
It's actually funny that it's to another egomaniac.
Right, yeah, Steve Jobs is another
Yeah.
egomaniac, right.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
It's like
Is that
I can imagine
funny?
Steve Jobs sending a letter back to him. Now who's more important? Now who's more important, motherfucker? Oh yeah, high phone.
You probably did. You fucking probably did.
There you go. I'm more important. No, I'm more important.
Yep. That's a good ring fight. Remember we were
Yeah.
talking about celebrities fighting? Sean Connery versus Steve Jobs. That would be a fucking good one.
Oh yeah, Eric, how are Apple products made by sweatshops in China?
They are.
What does that have to do with anything?
They're developed in
But how does that? What in the world does that have to do with Sean Connery's response to Steve Jobs? It has nothing to do with Sean Connery's response to Steve Jobs.
It's only talking about Apple.
Sean Connery is not saying I'm not going to participate with you and your company because I disagree with their policies. He's saying I'm too important to be in an advertisement, and that's going to mess up my career as a super movie star.
Let's see if I can do a crab.
He's saying I can think of no faster way to destroy my career than to appear in one of your banal advertisements. I mean, come the fuck on,
Right?
Sean Connery. Get over yourself.
I know. But it's funny too that it was multiple times. They're both so both egos.
Yeah. I guess I'm very much Alpha Quadro values. So I find appeals to your own importance to be incredibly ill-advised, at the very least, and off-putting for sure.
Alright, I can't. I already psyched myself out.
You are being educated, Cloud.
I'll do it later.
Life is gathering all the components of the world together to make your class schedule for the day.
Listen, life is all yards and squares. All right, kids?
That's second period. That's
Yards
Miss Lapalosa,
and
your
squares.
second
That's
period
what-
astrology teacher.
That's what life is about. Okay? So get your yards and your squares straight.
Miss Lapalosa, why did I get a square yard on this paper?
Because
Because it was
you are
terrible.
one.
Yeah, 'cause I am. Oh no!
So am I. Welcome to the club.
Remember, everybody, life's mostly just squares and yards. So occasionally you might get a what's a good thing in astrology?
A trine.
Occasionally you might get a trine. Savor those moments. Savor.
You have this like the spiritual cross or whatever, some like kite in yours.
We got a kite.
I don't fucking know.
Not
I don't
bad.
know. You have some spiritual thing. You also have a yard though, too. So it's like, peeps, get used to it.
All right, horse mumbler. I get what you're saying. Fine. But the thing is, that whole thing, you notice how I wasn't fixated on the woman slapping at all. That was not my justification for thinking of the douchebag. My justification is that fucking letter to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So why did you respond to that?
Boom. Don't circulate. Go straight.
That's what they say in anti-circle corners. I mean, here's the thing about gender equality. It's only an issue for people who have problems with one of the other genders. It's like it's funny how Rachel and I are never talking about gender equality. It's like I might be consistent with certain gender roles or inconsistent with other gender roles or whatever, but Rachel and I treat each other like individual human beings. Now, I don't treat her. The only time I treat her like a woman is when I'm having sexual intercourse with her.
Okay, so I was going through my period and he was so sweet about it, and I was like, that's feminism. That's feminism. That's feminism. He was like, do you, take care of yourself. There was like, he understood I was going through my period, and as a woman respected that, and that is feminism.
And so no, when people talk about being anti-feminist or whatever, what they really mean is this. I don't like women divisively complaining on the basis of gender as a group. It's the same thing I'm saying and everybody's saying, except the correct thing is what I'm saying, which is anytime you have individuals who are being divisively groupist, then you will have a counter group that hates that group and says they're the problem. And then they play, you're the problem, no, you're the problem, right? None of those things are even relevant to anything. What actual policy prescriptions are we talking about here for women? You know, it's like nobody's recommending indentured servitude for women, and nobody's recommending strip all the rights from men. And even if there are people who are recommending that shit, it's not a legitimate policy advocacy. It's not meaningful.
Tiny Man 66, are you gonna really write a song about Eric? If you write a song about Eric, then you have to let us know.
Well, he wrote a song where Eric is my muse, and I will tell you when I get famous.
You'll tell when we get famous? That's not fair.
Can we hear your song?
Yeah.
I want to hear your song.
I want to hear it too.
Is it set to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb?
I hope so.
Because that's my favorite song.
This place was white as snow, right?
Yeah. I mean, okay, well, even if I were to accept the haughtiness, he blew it completely when he said, I am James Bond, I am fucking James Bond. It's like,
sure he blew it.
It is possible to conceive of writing a letter to Steve Jobs like that. That did work. But this is the thing. If you are going to be, if you're gonna play that game, haughty superiority and cutting rhetoric, you have to do a good job.
Right.
And he didn't. And therefore
that's why he's known for that's why he has his reputation.
And that was in print. He had plenty of time to think that thing out. It was not off the fly. So he's got no excuse for that abject failure of both FE and TI.
And if he says it's okay to beat women, that's also not okay.
A horse lawnmower is clarified there. Oh. It sounds to me as though he was basically conditionally saying, well, if you're going to use that logic, then we should be slapping women too, right?
Oh, okay.
So I think that's
it was misconstrued.
He was winning the argument against somebody who's doing what the same thing that Sean Connery did in that letter. Like, this whole class of thing is inferior to me.
Yes, that's who he is.
I shall not sully my.
That is Sean Connery.
I'm not going to sully my reputation as a professional actor by appearing in your advertisement. But now you are nothing but a computer salesman. I am James Bond.
Amongst other James Bonds, come on. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
If I had been Steve Jobs, I would have been like that. I sit in back of the letter saying, "Oh my God, this is so funny. Watch." And I would have held a press conference and read it out loud, and it would have been like, "Can you believe that fucking douchebag? Seriously? Oh my God, did he actually send me this letter?
Let's go make some iPhones.
Who wants a copy of it? Everybody.
I bet you he made iPhones right out. He said he was." Okay, so he admitted that the tablet came first, that his idea for a tablet came first, and then the phone. Okay, so I have an idea that Sean Connery was the inspiration to be like, you know what? We're going to take this from tablet to phone.
Okay, fine. Maybe it is fake then. If that's the case, then fine. But here's the other thing. What about what Marge says here? No, Eric, he said that sometimes women can't let you have the last word, and that since they are being unreasonable, they need to be slapped. I mean, the thing is, if a woman can't let you have the last word, well, there's two possibilities. Either the woman's right, so she should have the last word, or the woman's wrong, so you should have the last word. And if she won't acknowledge that, then you need to continue to discuss the matter until you're in agreement, or you need to leave her because she's being a bitch.
Right.
I mean, the idea that somehow wrongness justifies violence, communicative wrongness does not justify violence, ever. Communicative wrongness justifies lots of things, but not violence.
No.
It's about this guy who owns an amusement park is nihilistic, wears colorful kid's hat, and this woman wants her intuitive vision back because this guy stole them, and I got this vision of it being Eric in a parallel reality. Huh.
That's interesting.
Interesting. FPTI is not in my press act. Maybe this is why I don't care what he's saying. That is why you don't care what he's saying. It's your superpower for me to totally fuck up FE, and for the other person to not even be aware it happened is the ISTJ's INTJ's power. Like, oh wait, you didn't even notice that, did you? Cool.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Like, I don't have to worry about Cameron being fussy about things. Steve Jobs just a psycho wannabe Zen Buddhist. He was just an ISTP, Cloud.
Yeah.
Don't call ISTPs psycho wannabe Zen Buddhists. They are, psycho-ish, seekers of pseudo-Buddhism. Psycho-ish pseudo-Buddhist seeker. I want to talk a little bit about sleep. Sleep's so strange if you think about it, because yourself, the engineering requirements for creating a human being are remarkable if you think about it. We have to be like timed sort of on this edge of consciousness thing. When I sleep, I need to be not conscious, but I need to still be moving around a little bit, because otherwise you can't just you have to turn over periodically when you're sleeping, or else your blood gets all settled into one spot or whatever. And of course, Eminem's an ENTP.
What's the song?
Okay, anybody thinks Eminem's an ISTP just is ignoring extroverted intuition as a cognitive function.
Yeah.
Who's saying? Is this Elvis Costello? Punch it up. When you know you can't need it, punch it up.
Yeah, I think that is Elvis Costello.
Costello? Cool.
I mean, Eminem ENFP is possible. That's not out of the question, Cloud. It's conceivable that he'd be an ENFP, because at least we know that it's not, it's believable because of the extroverted intuition.
Yeah.
The reason he's not an ENFP is because he's obviously so FE. He's so third slot FE. It's ridiculous. But I totally concede that, okay, well, it was very convincing. It looked real. So I guess that's why it was a good hoax, is because Apple did it.
It's a hoax.
That letter. No, I didn't lose that debate with Taylor at all. Not even remotely. I conceded that in the interviews. I guess if you want to prefer that kind of evidence, but then you're going to be wrong most of the time. And that's exactly it. You got to understand that FE is very good at, especially third slot FE, at validating within the specific FE metric. And hip hop culture has a very specific FE metric, and he validates within that when he's being interviewed. But he's in no way, shape, or form could you ever dream of calling him an ISTP. He just isn't. They're just not that good with language. They don't want to be that good with language. They don't. You know how you know he's not an ISTP is his critique of other rappers for not telling enough stories. I think he might be his whole character. You're right. See, that's the thing, Cloud. The reason he's FE and not FI is because it is a character. You got that part right. It's a character. FE constructs characters that model or demonstrate FI things. But it could be ENFP. 6 slot FE is in an ENFP is pretty damn effective. So I'm not disputing the possibility it could be an ENFP. That's within the range of reasonable conclusions to draw. The idea that he could be an ISTP means you have to reject anything that we know for sure about cognitive functions.
I will go to sleep if I am bored. If I am down a rabbit hole, I may not sleep until this interest is understood. it was a long time ago that it was like in like Reddits and stuff where they were saying he was ISTP and like cafe typology or whatever. Typology Cafe. Like some young kids typed him as an ISTP.
Well, I mean, email anthrax, it makes sense that you would think that, because if you look at his affect and you're reading his body language and his FE sort of display in interviews, ISTP is not an unreasonable conclusion to draw. But like I said, this is actually a good test to see if people really understand cognitive functions or are going to mistype. Is if they think that affect is more important than data. Thanks. Oh, cool. Thank you. Because affect can be imitated, and especially for somebody like Eminem, who there aren't very many interviews of him, and he's being very, very cautious and constructed and careful in his FE display. Now, there are two kinds of actors. Okay, Cloud. SFP actors are actors who use what's called the method acting, where in order to act well, they have to be that character. You know, like the most classic example of method acting is in Tropic Thunder, where who plays the guy who's plays the black guy in Tropic Thunder?
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. plays
That's so funny.
plays a method actor who in order to be in character has to always be in character and believe he's being that person. That's an FI approach to acting. It can be very, very successful. But the character creation thing, I'm talking about his various personas, his ability to bounce between them, and his not maintaining those personas in other contexts, that's very FE. So what we can learn here, Cloud, is that you're right. There are a shit ton of great FI actors, and they use a different approach to acting than FE actors do. Both are legitimate, but we can distinguish between them, and we can learn something from that. That is perfect. Isn't it brilliant? I love it. Okay, well, I agree with you, Email Anthrax, that ISTPs do tend to be craftsmen, but it's like saying ISFJs are really good at putting together complete dishes. And after all, you know, a rap song is like a complete dish. Well, yeah, but the thing is, ISFJs are good at putting together complete dishes that use food, not words. See what I'm saying? That's your problem with the ISTP thing. Is there are two things he literally cannot be, and it's ISTP and ISFP. It's exactly what Skygear says. It's entirely impossible to imagine that Eminem could even ever dare to dream of being an ISTP or an ISFP. It's because people don't have the I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? Talk about FI polar.
I love that line.
No, his interview self is a persona too. There is no authentic Eminem there. It's all crafted. There's not really much of an authentic Eric here either. I'm not as good at crafting because I'm much more commonly in the public eye. But that might be one reason I think he's an ENFP, is that he's very good at crafting and he's comfortable with drawing from the public eye for long periods of time. That's much more consistent with ENFP than with ENTP. So that's a possible thing. But I would attribute that primarily to him being super cautious, having successfully navigated the minefield of a very difficult neighborhood and so forth growing up, that he learned to not make any FE mistakes. He had to always be hard. Nothing gay was okay, you know. That's like an ENTP who internalized for the first 20 years of his life a set of FE rules and hasn't fully adjusted yet. So, you know, and when he made Rap God, he's still talking homophobic stuff. It doesn't fly anymore, right? Well, he's internalized his youth built-in FE rules, and he's having to adjust, and FE is slower than TI, and so there you go, you know. What's FI acting and FE acting? FI acting is you put yourself, like if you hear like Daniel Day-Lewis, who played the left foot guy, he's Joaquin Phoenix, he's a method actor. The ones who really need to be in character, like, okay, you know, while I'm on the set today, I'm acting like an English gentleman. Now, this isn't something I can just switch back and forth between. I need to get into character anytime. I need to feel like I'm that person. And now I'm that person again. So what's my backstory? Tell me. I need to know who this person is. I don't need to know who my character is. I need to know what I'm trying to convey emotionally. Surprise? Okay, fine. You know, it's like, I don't need to know his whole backstory to act like somebody, because I'm acting like something is just about running various emotion display apps anyway. So like the thumbnail for this video, it talks about the elation that is here in this party, but it also conveys it visually. And when I chose to make that thumbnail, I didn't think to myself, okay, make yourself feel really happy so you seem happy. I didn't think to myself, okay, what's my character? Super happy guy. What's my character? Okay, here we go. I just said, what facial expression looks like elation?
Yep.
You know, so I don't expect my emotional displays to link to actual emotions. FI people do. Now, my emotional displays, when I'm not communicating, they do link to actual emotion. So what Rachel notes is that when I'm consuming media and I'm not communicating, then my emotional displays are all authentic because I'm not trying to control them at all. But when I'm communicating, I tend to think of communication as expressing language with emotional display. So it's authentic, but it's authentic in the sense that it's consistent with what I'm trying to communicate. And what I'm trying to communicate is consistent with what I actually believe, but the link to feelings is very distant. Joaquin is INFP, I agree. And he's super gaff.
I thought it was ENFP.
Oh, ENFP. He's NFP, I agree, okay? I don't know, E or I.
I don't know.
But he's NFP.
I think he's an ENFP.
You're probably right about that, actually. I've met Joaquin Phoenix before, by the way.
Have you?
Mhm. Very, very briefly, but I did meet him.
Where?
In my first girlfriend's college dorm apartment. She lived in at Kresge, where they have these like dorm apartments where it's got 3 bedrooms, one of which has 2 beds in it, and the other 2 are singles, and then had a kitchen. And my girlfriend had one of the singles. Anyway, he came in to pick up this girl that I called, I think everybody started calling her this, Sicky Nelmo, because her name was Nikki Selmo. Anyway, she was an attractive young lady, and he came to pick her up, and River Phoenix was still alive at the time, and he was out in the car that they had.
That's so cool.
But he didn't come in because he was too famous. Joaquin Phoenix, nobody really knew who he was. River Phoenix was already famous. Joaquin was River Phoenix's brother.
Wow.
And they went to go pick up this chick.
Yeah, they were really close.
River and Joaquin.
Mm-hmm. But it's absolutely true that Joaquin became famous after River.
Yeah. And I think probably his brother's death sort of made room for him because people were wishing they could get River Phoenix. And someone said, well, you can get his brother. He kind of looks like him a little bit.
Not at all.
I mean, that's what I'm imagining. Like, well, if you're trying to think maybe Joaquin Phoenix is a good replacement, you go, well, it's his brother, so they kind of have a vague family resemblance. You know?
Yeah. River he was in Stand By Me, right?
Yeah, he was. Good. He was so good in Stand By Me. So good. You gotta wonder about those parents,
movies.
Though.
Stand By Me is one of my favorite movies. Yeah, I saw it like very young, so like the idea of like the dead kid really like made me sad. But
River Phoenix was not murdered. He OD'd at the Viper Room.
What happened?
He was at the Viper Room at the time. I don't know if it still is, but at the time was a club that celebrities went to.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to get into,
What was he taking?
like it's a cocktail of different things. It seems to me like he took some and he took some blow, and then he felt good again, so he took another pill, and then maybe he did a little bit of meth or something, and then he did a little bit of whatever, and it just sort of all piled up in his system, and then he died.
Oof.
Kind of what happened with little baby, or no, what's that guy's name? The kind of emo kid who was up and
Lil Peep.
Lil Peep.
Oh, Lil Peep.
Kind of like what happened with Lil Peep. You think most likely his drink was poisoned? Who would want to kill? Exposed sexual abuse in it. I did not know any of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who sexually abused who? Anyone? He was drugged in his drink, and it killed him.
Who?
Why would they?
River?
His family was part of a church cult.
Yeah, they were.
Well, his family had to be weird as fuck because they named their kids River and Joaquin.
Yeah, and there's sisters too that are in the industry as well. Some are not.
Really?
Yeah, they were sexually abused. Joaquin has admitted that. Yeah, and the dad was in a cult, and then they realized it was a cult, and then they moved to America.
I heard Joaquin Phoenix describe how he sort of does it. They asked him about physical trauma from the Joker's role, and he said, "What trauma?" And after clarification, he said, "It's a momentary feeling."
That's good.
Why poor Keanu?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was
Why'd you
thinking.
stick Keanu in there?
Keanu's riding high. He's in
living
every
large.
popular movie now.
Everybody thinks he's like, God walking the street.
Yeah, he's like he's the real Jesus nowadays. People think he's like a walking angel. Keanu. It's great. I love it. I love the Keanu comeback. I do want to see that movie.
I think it's weird though that I've never even heard that conspiracy theory about River Phoenix, not about him being murdered. I never even heard that.
I never heard that before either.
That's weird. Whoever, it's like everybody's heard of the Courtney Love thing. Everybody has an opinion about whether Courtney killed Kurt or vice versa.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
And most people at least acknowledge that it's sort of at least conceivable that Courtney Love killed him.
Yeah.
Just because she's such a bitch,
It's true.
Keanu's been through some traumatic stuff too. Really?
I'm trying to figure out what movie Keanu was in recently. That he was really good in. John Wick? John Wicker? Wick?
Yeah, that was good.
I've never seen any of them. I heard the third one is like really good.
The third one? I think I've seen the third one.
Can we watch it maybe together?
Yeah, I like those John Wick movies. They're very action packed.
Yeah, I know.
What's another weird good franchise is Red. It has Bruce Willis in it.
Oh, cool.
And it also has John Malkovich.
Cool. 90s or 80s?
No, 90s for sure.
Yeah. See, there's a chunk of 90s. There's a chunk of
maybe like 98, 99, 2000 even. Okay.
But that makes sense because I was young at that time. So I was only going to see like movies with my girlfriends. I wasn't going to movies to see I started going 2001, 2002 with boys to movies.
Movie.
Cool.
Well, it was 2010 actually.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen Red.
There's a sequel to it.
Oh.
I think that I haven't seen. Maybe I don't know.
That was a really good movie.
2013 film. Is there a Red 3 as well?
No, not yet.
Will there be a Red 3? Red 3 is in the works.
Cool.
Most was in 2013. Wait, is there a Red 4 movie? Maybe there is a Red 3 movie. I know. Have you seen Red 2?
No.
Oh, I have seen Red 2.
Okay,
I've seen them both.
John Wick
Yeah, John Wick. How many John Wick movies are there?
There's 3. I don't know actually. We should look that up.
The problem with naming your movie Red is makes it kind of less Googleable than other movies.
John Wick.
John Wick.
Oh, there's 4.
John
Oh,
Wick.
that's
Hex.
coming out in 2022. Yeah, the last one was in 2019. I haven't seen any of them. So
Okay, maybe we should start on the first one.
cool. I heard it's great.
Cool. I like fun and good action films, and I also dislike very much bad action films.
Sorry, Tiny Man Sick.
I have that's something I've recently come to realize is that action movies are tricky to do well because watching Pacific Rim showed me just how awful, and it took me a while to realize just how awful it was.
What?
Pacific Rim.
Oh God.
Michael Bay.
Oh God.
As a director,
I don't want to. Can we not?
I don't think he's a good director.
Please, I don't want to talk about him.
Okay, I'm saying I don't think
he
he's
grinds
good.
my gears.
He grinds my gears a little bit too.
Okay, good. All right.
All right,
So we are on the same page. It's just I cannot talk about him because I can talk about him.
All right, well, the answer is we're gonna go 100 starting Keanu's. If every fifth Keanu has 5 Keanu's himself, then there's 200 total 200 total Keanu's.
Yes.
There are 200 total Keanu's. Okay, David Grandin, I'm so glad you brought that up. That movie is absolutely fucking terrible.
I've never
Even
seen
as a
Fast
child,
Friends.
okay? As a child in 1981, a Pacific Rim was by Guillermo del Toro. Terrible. Fine, my bad. Then Guillermo del Toro, you grind my gears in that movie.
Oh.
It's a bad movie.
I only liked the one guy, the one that we liked from.
All right, 180 Sky Gear. Assuming every fifth one, they're one of the 5. How about that? 180?
Oh my gosh.
What did Michael Bay direct?
All of the car Transformers.
Oh, Transformers.
Yeah.
I think I saw Transformers 1 and I think I liked it okay.
Me too.
I gave you the answer. 180 is my answer, assuming every fifth Keanu that has 5 Keanu's, the 5 Keanu's that the fifth Keanu has includes the 5th Keanu.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. Oh my God, that was like 2 hours. That was such a long movie. That was such like a dramatic, like, they made it so dramatic. The premiere for it, and it was like not good.
Of all of the movies that we've seen, that I've seen since I've been with you, I've seen some movies that I haven't seen with her too. That I've seen since I've been with her. I started watching more movies. The worst double feature I can come up with is Pacific Rim plus Aquaman. That'd be a terrible double feature. That'd be like 4 hours completely wasted.
I've seen Pacific Rim, and I endorse that message.
That was part of the problem with Pacific Rim Lawnmower is it definitely went very B-list with the acting, and like it wasn't shockingly bad like Neil Breen or something. But for example, the guy who played the highest up military person in Pacific Rim, the black guy, he had a English accent and it came and went. It's like
so bad.
He was sometimes English accent and sometimes he wasn't really very English accent.
I can't remember most of it except for Charlie Day. That's it. That's all I remember from that movie.
Yeah, I remember him too. That he was actually the high point of the movie.
We do share a lot of the same taste.
Oh, there's a last minute session at 3:00 my time today.
Oh yeah, I meant to tell you to look at your emails.
All right, cool. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
That's his last name, Skygear.